Do you want to present yourself?
Sure. My name is Coleman Langdon. I'm the police chief for the city of Lynnwood. I've been with the department since I was 19 years of age. So I've worked here for over just about 30 years now, actually 29 years. I live in this community. I've been a police officer in this community my whole life, and now I have the privilege of leading the men and women who go out there and serve and protect our community every day. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I brought some great members of my department along that will be able to present about what they do as well.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Wonderful to have you. I'm very grateful for you making the time and coming to have this conversation that is very important for both of us. So since we start this way, do you want to present yourself?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Nick Lee. I am in charge of our community engagement and crime prevention section. And I've been with the department for about 12 years. I am also live around the area here as well and growing a family here as well. So thank you for the invite. Yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you.
My name is Justin Gann, and I'm one of the commanders for the police department. Specifically, it's called Special Services Division. Law enforcement service, right around 18 years. So I've had a lot of different jobs and assignments at the police department, and have really worked on a lot of partnerships throughout the community that we find important. And yeah, thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, all right. So, do you want to present yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Mary McDonald. I'm a police officer here in Lynnwood. I've been a police officer for a little over 5 years now. I work in our community health and safety section. I'm also a local to Lynnwood. I grew up here, went to high school, lived here my whole life, and still currently local.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I have a wonderful guest that we all are always happy to have around. So do you mind presenting yourself?
Greetings to all our wonderful viewers. I'm Pa Usman Juf, the Executive Director of the Washington West African Center.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna give some background information about Lynnwood and its wonderful citizen. So research show that we have over 141K of people living here in Lynnwood, and 30% of them are born outside of the US, and 80 to 9% of those communities are African or Black American, and the rest identify themselves as Asians. So that comes my first question. Okay. So what is like a job of like a police officer?
Yeah, good question. So job of a police officer is to know their community, to know the laws of the state, to know the laws of the land, and to know the ordinances of our actual community. So you have state laws, and then you have local ordinances. But more important is to know the community and know the needs of the community, and that happens by going out and building relationships. Mm-hmm. So that is something that we expect our staff to do, is go out into the community and find opportunities to interact before things go bad, so that we are viewed as a resource. So the job of a police officer is to be a resource so that we can co-produce public safety. We'll never be able to eliminate all crime, but I need everybody in our community to know, no matter where they're at, no matter their citizenship status, they need to know that they can call us, and we're here to help work and walk alongside them to make things safer for them and for everyone in the community. So the job is really about building those relationships so we can walk alongside community members so that we can make the community safer together. It's a partnership.
Okay.
Good. Can you guys silence your phone? Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Sorry.
No, you're
Oh,
fine.
I heard a ping or something. That might have been.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a phone here too.
Mine is off.
What type of alert are you getting?
Yeah, I hear it.
Not mine.
Okay. No, that's fine.
I thought it was a camera, but I.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
It's not mine.
All right.
Okay. All right. We can.
Okay.
We
All right.
Proceed.
Okay. So Are you ready? Okay, so what I get from what you just shared is like it's not a job, it's kind of a relationship between law enforcement and the officers that work in that department. So I'm gonna switch the question. Do you agree of on what he said, or do you have like any other things that you wanna add to what you just shared with us?
No, I think that definitely captured what our department represents. Our values and what we believe and the expectation of our officer or employees in general. What we meant to do in the community. I mean, being just to kind of add on to that, being responsive and being able to adapt to the change of our population here in Lynnwood. I think that's really important. As a department that continues to try to build a trust in our community, is extremely important for us to having the people that work there that represents the community that we're serving. I mean, I've been here for about 12 years working here, and I can say that, in this 12 years, we saw a lot of changes in our workforce, in our police department. We have a lot more people speak different languages in our department. Will be able to serve our community in a different way, really unique way, and also having folks that have a really unique cultural understanding. I feel that's extremely important, and we hope to continue that towards that direction as our city continue to grow.
Thank you so much. And do you agree, or do you want to add something into that? And I pick up on something that you said, and I'm gonna follow the question after her with that. Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree with that. Growing up here and all the feedback that I also received from people in the community, I've always got the feedback that we are very strongly community oriented. I completely agree with that, and especially compared to maybe other nearby agencies, the differences here, like how much we truly care about our community members, how much we put efforts into really building relationships with everybody in the community, shows in our mission.
Okay. Thank you so much. So the second question is how the team making effort to kind of connect with people with color.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something that has to be done with intention. You have to be intentional in your hiring. You have to be intentional in your outreach efforts. You have to be intentional in our training and policies, and just making sure that we're setting a culture that our people are going out, our officers are going out into the community, and they're reflecting the values of our department and the values of our community. So when they go out there, and that starts again with good hiring good people, and we don't hire necessarily to get only people of color coming in, but what I want is for people to look at Lynnwood as a place where they would want to work. If they're a person of color, if they are a person from this community, I want them to look at Lynnwood and go, I'd like to work there. Now, part of that very much is making sure that we are intentional about the diversity and that we are bringing in people, because to step into an environment where they're the only person of color is intimidating. We recognize that. And so the fact that people have taken the leap and have jumped in and been called to service for our department has now created this environment and this cycle where more and more people who are of color are looking at this as a viable place that they want to work and serve their community. And again, as we have people that are more reflective of the community served, we're only going to get better at our job. So we view it as a natural evolution and a natural progression of where we need to be as a department. So.
I mean, just when they started, you can hear us talking about one of our own who is part of them, that he is actually on vacation in the Gambia right now, and how he takes them to the different, African restaurants that are here. It's a good feeling to see our people, working in diverse settings, whether it's in law enforcement, whether it's in the public sector, whatever it is. It makes us feel safe. And without a doubt, I want to give credit to the Lynnwood PD. Just hearing each of them quoting more than 10 years besides her, and she's very young. She seemed to have a future with it at the 10, 20 some years. I mean, 17 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So longevity means the department is doing something right to have people who want to stay there. One thing I also notice is if they respond to crime in some instances, they actually send folks that look like the community to come and intervene, which of course is going to bring down some tension. And yeah, so I think it's a good thing. Work in progress.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, do you want to share something?
Yeah, I think kind of going off what the chief said as well, the one thing that this department does really well is, we don't wait for people to come to us. We are very intentional, and I can tell you, we go to festivals, we go to celebrations, we go to parties, we go to colleges, we go to our military bases. We're everywhere to try to attract and connect with as many community members as we can. So we're not waiting for them to seek us out. We're trying to seek them out and then build those relationships and partnerships and let them know, what we have to offer as well if they believe that maybe police work would be for them. We want to be there for them. We want people to know about it. And I think us proactively going out there and seeking out those relationships is really what makes our community a lot stronger. Yeah.
So that follow perfectly with my following question. Do the office of Lynnwood have any specific trainings dealing with immigrant community? Like, do you train the new officer or even the senior officer of like dealing with the immigrant? If so, what are those like training that you guys have?
Yeah, that's a great question. And training is very important. What you see with training is you have our officers who go to the police academies, and they're there for almost 5 months. And they learn training on how to work with diverse communities. They also, when they come back, we have policies that spell out how they're to interact, especially when you start talking about immigration status. We are not to ask about that unless there's very specific circumstances. But more importantly, like training is training. You can go to training and you check a box or you sign a roster saying I've completed the training. What's more important is the culture and the experience. So like we all know that in learning, or we're taught that to learn how to carry yourself well or to be a professional in your chosen profession, 70% of that learning and how you arrive at being really good at your work is through experience. 20% is mentoring, having other people, so having supervisors that are saying, yes, this is the right way to do things. These are our values. This is our culture. And only 10% is training. So 70, almost 90% of it is really about the culture, about making sure we're reinforcing those positive interactions. So when we talk about relationships, it gets back to that. It's what you build into the culture. It's just like with our hiring. We don't hire to check a box. We don't hire somebody from a diverse background to check a box. We hire because they're the best candidate. We only hire the best to work at Lynnwood. But what we have is a diverse pool of applicants who want to come and work for Lynnwood now because they look at how we're carrying ourselves. So it's about the relationships. And Pa, like you said, it's a start. It's like any relationship. The relationship never ends. There's constant work that has to go into it. And the needs of the community right now can be different. I mean, we've all seen in the last year, there's been much more of a conversation around immigration and police interactions with immigrant communities. And that's why I'm so grateful that we're here. But more important than just training, because I can send my officers to watch a video, to sit in a classroom. It's about the culture and how we carry ourselves every day, and about the relationship with the community. And if we start to get off track from what the community expects, they let us know. And the reason they let us know is because we have a relationship and we're open to hearing that. And so this right here is a perfect example of the kind of work we're trying to do. So while this isn't training, this is signaling to not only the communities that we're trying to reach out to today, but also to my staff that this is important to us. We want to make sure that we have strong relationships with this community, particularly the West African community, as we talked today, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Pa, what are some of the challenges that community member is reporting about their interaction with police?
Mixed.
Sure.
There's no doubt that our community are scared of the police, especially if they're in uniform. So when we see the police, we wanna run away, and there's a background to this, our traumas, our experiences. I'm glad that the chief and all of them are continuing to reinforce the fact that things are changing and community needs. Before, when we interact with the police, for the most part, it doesn't end well. We either end up being the one that go to jail, being victimized. There are evidences about how we have been victimized, how we have been guinea pigs of the system and law enforcement responding to crime and interaction with different communities, and our people end up being the one that are taken in. But there are several changes that are happening as the police shifted, them hiring people from our community, having them respond to us is a good feeling that can ease the tension. Us not seeing a white male Caucasian just show up and be like, okay, he's coming to put us in trouble. We think when we see the police, they are coming to put us in trouble. They are coming to put us to jail, take us to jail. That's what we technically would believe. We have a lot of cultural differences. We have our fears. We have immigration, challenges. And we think once we interact with any police officer or any law enforcement, we are going to immigration. Sometimes this fear alone leads the community members to even do things that would end up breaking the law when originally that wasn't the intention. And I'll give a typical example. Not long ago, we're about to get into Ramadan. We have a group of newly arrived migrants that we are coming and, going to a restaurant for their protection. I wouldn't say where they go. Sure. They go and, seek employment there and take care of themselves. They get into this restaurant to sit there every day to eat out. Came Ramadan, they are fasting. They did not have a need to buy food. Now they still went to sit in the restaurant. Because they are not buying food, the restaurant called the police on them. And the police came to respond to it. As soon as they saw the police, the first day, they just talked to them and they left. This guy who was in there that day, because they were warned, the next day they saw them, they called the police. As soon as he saw the police, he tries to quickly go out. He wasn't there. He went out, and of course, they called back upon him and he was charged for obstruction. Genuinely, he wasn't going to run. But he didn't know, he didn't understand what was going on, and he wasn't committing any crime. He didn't know what was going on. So those type of interactions, maybe as we have this conversation, is what we should look at. Should that person be booked into jail?
Right.
Are there things that could be done if we know that somebody, like whether in the form of an investigation or something that could lead us to understand that this was not an intentional person trespassing or committing a crime or wanting to do bad.
Right.
Because he ended up in so many situations that he being booked to jail is now on his record. He does not even want to go report to ICE, because if he goes, that shows up on his record that he was booked into a county jail. He was booked into, a facility.
Right.
Eventually. So these are some of the things that the community that make the community to continue to scared, that whenever we see the police, we think, okay, we are going to go to jail. This is what is going to happen. We are going to be charged of a crime. We are going to be reported to immigration. We don't want to go back to Africa or be deported.
Sure.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Picking up on what was said about crime and police officers showing up and arresting community members that really don't know like what to do. Basically, I think as or the younger generation, the only guidelines we have about policing is what we saw on movie. Like
Right.
when police arrest you during traffic, you just need to put your hands in the wheel, don't move, say yes sir, no sir. Those are the type of things that like people like usually know or do because they just see it on movies. Um besides responding to crime, what else a police officer do?
Well, responding to crime is a part of the job, but the relationship building, the patrolling around, there's a lot that goes into being a police officer. For us to once we hire somebody, like this afternoon, I have an interview with somebody, and if it goes well, I'll offer them a job. Once they have gone through the hiring process, the screening process, it's about another year to year and a half before they can ever even handle a 911 call on their own, before they can respond to a call. So
Okay.
the officers that are out here working are highly trained. There's a lot of investment that the community makes into them. And so the people that you have out here working, what we're looking for when we hire them are people of high quality character. We want good people out here working. And I know for a fact with Lynnwood that we have good people working here. That doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes sometimes, but the work that we're doing, there's constant training that's going on. The officers are expected to take time off so that they have time with their families. We want our officers to be well rested. So when they're not working and responding to crimes, they're still expected to be out interacting with the community. So we try to build in a third of their time to be what we call proactive time. And proactive means out driving around, out getting out, talking to the business owners, talking to community members, find those opportunities where we can interact. And as they learn and get to know the community better, the community in turn gets to know us better. And so we get better at our job. So again, comes back to the relationship building. And I guess building off what Pa said, we are one of 18,000 police departments in the country. And so it's hard for me to speak for other police departments.
Mm-hmm.
I can speak to the region and the level of professionalism that we see in the Seattle region,
Mm-hmm.
but each department is distinct. And
Mhm.
so that's part of the barrier we have, is that people come here and they have an interaction with us, and maybe we're there because we were called to deal with a potential reported crime or suspicious circumstance,
Mhm.
or maybe we're there because we're just patrolling, which means we're
Mhm.
just out checking things out. We're just
Mhm.
keeping an eye on our community.
Mhm.
Those interactions don't have to be negative, and we don't want them to be negative. Everybody has rights in our country,
Mhm.
regardless of immigration status. So they have rights that are spelled out in our Constitution. Our officers are very well versed in that, and so they are going to treat the people with respect. They're expected to treat them with respect. There are times where that could be interpreted as being direct, as they're trying to gather information,
Mhm.
but never the aim should be to disrespect a member of the community or to make them feel less than. Our job is to go out and investigate, to gather facts, and if we have to take action, we will. And then there's an expectation at times that we do that. But it's hard for me, and it pains me when I see something happen on the other side of the country, and I know that I will carry that. And I know at times in your community too, you'll see something happen somewhere, and you're like, I will feel there will be an effect on me as a result
Right.
of something that happened far away
Right.
from here that has
Right.
nothing to do. And so
Mhm.
there's a similar dynamic in our profession.
Mhm.
Something can happen in another part of the country or in another part of the state,
Mhm.
and I know that it causes fear in our communities, and I
Mhm.
know that it creates tension. The only solution I have is for us to come together and continue trying to build a relationship and have those conversations. If we all retreat back to our corners and we just point fingers or look at each other with suspicion, that doesn't work well. And so what it requires is courage for people to come forward. So I want to thank you for letting us come in here and opening your doors to allow us to come here, and that vulnerability that you've shown in doing that. I appreciate it. And so it really does come back to humans interacting with humans and treating each other right, and trying to remove some of that power dynamic where people feel under threat or scared or waiting what we call the other shoe to drop. Like at any moment, things could change and could go bad for them. Like you talked about, I don't want that for your community members. I don't want them feeling that way.
In fact, I just want to add to that. I'm glad you said that people understanding each other. It's a diverse community.
Yep.
Cultures are very different.
Yes.
For us, going to the police is the very last resort back home. Where here, people are encouraged, call 911.
Right.
Anything happens, fire, call 911. I mean, medical, 911. Police, people are encouraged to call 911.
Yep.
Back home is very different for us. So sometimes you could see our people not interacting or doing that, not because we don't want to, but because it's very different. Having those engagements with each other. Sometimes it's those who even report the crime or the supposed crime. And the role of the police could be to come and investigate, look at the matter. And if there is no need to take the person in, they don't. I'll share this last story, which of course directly affects Lynnwood PD here. We had ESL class here. And one of the newly arrived migrants who do not speak read or write English that was here attending ESL went into the ladies' room unintentionally because there was no sign. He couldn't read the sign to understand that this is the women's room. He finished using it. He was about to come out. A staff from our neighboring office, the female staff, just opened the door and see, of course, a tall, dark, black guy. And she yelled and screamed when they made a big deal out of this. And of course, called Lynnwood PD. Your officers responded here to us. I was in my office having a meeting. In the evening, when the kids were having an after-school program, this guy had gone home. Of course, they made a big deal, did a lot of things. The landlord, everybody was involved. They called, sent us emails. A dramatic scene. That evening, the kids came and we were having an after-school program. I'm in my office. As soon as they saw the police, the kids freak out and came to tell me. Parents that were dropping off their kids freak out. To your credit, your officers came and comported themselves. But I had to stand on my grounds and say enough because I did investigation and knew that this was a genuine thing, a genuine mistake that the guy didn't know. He didn't go there to hurt or do anything to anyone. Of course, it could have escalated. But we handled it well. The officers came and said, okay, we're just trying to find out here. I told them if they want, they can decide to go and press charges or do whatever. I had to talk to the neighbors, but that was a neighbor to neighbor thing. If they try to learn to understand us, what happened would not have happened. If the landlord tried to understand us, what happened would not have happened. But we got a lot of these things that come up here that just gets us to be defensive sometimes when officers came. And when your officer came, I personally was a little defensive at first. I was very offended. By them even engaging the police and how it ended up affecting the kids, affecting the parents and everything that was happening. But that's the type of thing that happened. When we move here, the same building we are in, we have to fight our right. They smell weed and said it is us that are smoking. When I have no single staff here that smokes. They smell weed, they say it's us. There is trash, too much trash in the dumpster, they say it's us. Our people, Muslims, in the bathroom taking wudu to pray, they say we are taking showers in the bathroom. And the landlord had the audacity to tell me to book an appointment with her because she wants to come and have me demonstrate to her how we take wudu. I cuss her out. I wouldn't do it. It's my culture. People go to the bathroom to do different things. So some of these traumas is what actually inform how we react. Now, if they push us until we react to a situation, they call the police. It's very important for the police to actually know how to react to handle some of these things. Because sometimes for us, it's a reaction. And it's our reactions that are usually seen that would make us being labeled, all these Africans, these immigrants, these black people, these Muslims, when we are actually poked. So it's important for these things to understand the mindset that the police reacted since involving our communities. This is where having those trainings actually come in. Or those perceptions and understanding, because we are ready. Because we know that, okay, they have poked us to the edge and they have now called the police on us. And if the police come, it's only our reaction that the police are going to see and not what they have done to us to get us to the level we are in. But to your credit, your officers handled it well and they never followed up with any extra thing and nobody was taken in.
Okay. So do you want to comment on what Paji said? Or?
Yeah, I think Officer McDonald, not to put you on the spot, do you mind talking a little bit about response? You're closer to response. Our staff they're there to collect facts. They want to make the scene safe first. They're going to do that. If there's nothing that requires them to take action to put somebody in handcuffs or to hold on to somebody, it's really about gathering information after. But you want to talk a little bit about what it looks like for you when you respond to a call?
Yeah, when we respond to a call, we would talk to everybody involved and just get the information. And it sounds like it was just a misunderstanding. So absolutely, we would just, blame that to the other individual. Sometimes people are really upset. We usually respond. When we respond to 911 calls, it's typically the most chaotic time of their lives, right? So we are usually pretty good at calming everybody down, just saying, it's no big deal. We just want to hear what's going on, especially if there's children involved. That's a great way for us to, talk to the kids. We're just here to, see what's going on. And especially to talk on that, like we like to engage with our community, especially with children, and come outside of 911 calls and come and see if we can engage with the children, and so that they're not afraid if they do have to have an emergency situation where police is involved. When we come and respond, like, oh, hey, Officer McDonald, we remember you. You did a book reading for us, or whatever it is. And so we're hoping to really build a community relationships in that way, so that when we do come, it's not a chaotic scene, and that, it's a good interaction, especially when it's no big deal, just a miscommunication like this.
So, I have a follow-up question. Do you think the Lynnwood PD officer or other security officer are serving our community with equity like other community?
I would say yes, there is room for improvement. Earlier, I said it's a work in progress. And just based on what I said a few minutes ago, and she reiterated it, which is building relationship. I can hear them echoing it, which means, that's very important to them. We see them everywhere, a lot of places that events are happening. That's, I think, very important in terms of community policing. Once the people trust you, they can come to you when they have a need. But when we feel that when we report to the police, we will end up being the ones taken in, we will not report crimes even when we see it. So building the relationship is very important. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. For example, if the police department pulls over a community member or responds to a crime scene, to some immigrants that don't speak, read, or write English, that don't have any way of expressing themselves, or they mean to say something and they use a word that is either how it was pronounced. Your officers are there to take notes, whatever, to write a report. Whatever word they use, they may want to say, for example, Ford or something, and they use a different word that would maybe the F word. It sounds like it's the F word, and that's what you have written down. It may not be intentional. There might be a lot of cultural differences. Some things that mean one thing to us that means something completely different. So these are the challenges that continue to exist. Not sure what they have in place in terms of being able to have real-time interpretation. If you respond to a scene and the person does not speak English, what can you do to talk to them in the language that they understand? All of this require resources. I would have no doubt that, yes, we are not there yet, but this is just me, would I call it wishful thinking, but that would have a big impact in helping to mitigate some of the challenges that immigrants face, because not knowing the language alone puts you in a vulnerable situation, that language barrier. And for our people, West Africa is home to 16 countries, over half of which were colonized by France, 2 of which were colonized by Portugal. And as a result, people from those countries either speak French as their official language, or Portuguese as the official language, or the native language is one of the hundreds or thousands of native languages that we come with. So people from those countries, there are so many here, from Guinea, from Mali, from Togo, from Benin, from Cote d'Ivoire, you name it, all of those countries do not speak English. When they come here, they have to start from scratch. She's not going to talk about herself, but she came here, her first day to Wawac was to get services, and somebody had to interpret for me and her. She's sitting here today. She learned so fast within a couple of years that she's sitting here today being able to conduct this interview and do this for us in English. But she personally had experience with the police. I'm not sure if she's going to talk about it, that get her to be so scared. And at the time, she had to call me. I was at our old office. She had to call me. I went and responded to the scene. But she felt being victimized. Right. It takes a while for her to even trust dealing with the police because of how that scene happened. And language barrier was the key thing. She had to call me freaking out. Can you please come? Can you please? I have to leave the office to come and respond to her on the scene. But a good amount of interaction happened with him and the police and the other guy that I was in present. And later on, I had to interpret for her. So these are some of the things that, if it is possible, it is going to go a long way in making it more equitable, especially from the language perspective. But if it is not, we know resources are limited. Having this type of conversations, showing up to our events, us talking to the community to encourage them and empower them. The more they see you around us, the more comfortable the community is going to get and know that you are not out here hunting us to hurt us, but to actually protect us, because it's your role to protect our lives and properties.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that and for also talking about my personal experience with Lynnwood. And I think it was like sheriff. It wasn't like, it was the sheriff that intervened when that happened. I was all over the place, new driver, trying to find my way. It was just a quiet day until somebody just like hit me. And when the police officer came in, I'm Black, I have accent. I could barely even, that was 2023. I was still learning English. So, and that was my first year working officially at Wawac too. So I was pretty new. I couldn't really explain what happened, especially with direction. Oh, I was going to the right when I was supposed to stay to the left, or when they asked me, like where the driver is supposed to sit, or passenger side. I'm like, what is passenger side? I'm alone in the car. I was trying, because I speak French, and I'm trying to translate whatever question is asking me in English into French so I understand, and translate from French to English and give him the response. So it was a lot of like things inside my head trying to think. And it was like, oh, okay, so that means you caused the accident then. Like he didn't even like try to kind of understand or give me time. And the other one, of course, was a different color and all of that can, explain things way more better than I. And I end up getting tickets and fixing my car because the guy didn't even have insurance and he was driving without it. And he was at the red light and my car was stopped. And they just give me like, he said, what inappropriate lane change? Like I will never forget that. And I have one of my
she at least learned a new phrase.
I know, right?
From that incident, inappropriate lane change.
Lane change. And one of my co-worker called me with that name for a year, inappropriate lane change. So I didn't even do any lane change. I was in my lane. He just like hit me like from behind, but I paid I think 300 ticket and fixed. It was, so since then I really didn't trust calling the police, or even when people say, when something happened, you come, I will never call the police. I will call you if you're not available. I will fix my way, but I'm not gonna call the police. Yeah. And going to the language perspective that Pasha, I think he mentioned something about language understanding people that speaking different languages, being more patient. I don't know if you wanna kind of share in what perspective that you were like saying that.
Having the understand, I think it's just having that understand of culture as a resource for our for officers or responding to crisis like that and crisis moments like that, to be able to help them. And I'm sure the chief or you can chime into that. We do have access to a language translation services that can, it's not perfect. It's not it's not an instant translation. It requires a phone call, and then the end of the person will be able to translate for you in that incident. So
in the scene now.
On the scene, you don't need to
so
for you to do it.
That is in existence?
Yeah.
See why it's important to have this conversation?
I didn't know.
Yeah, it does exist, and we use it all the time.
Do you have to request it?
As soon as they recognize that you don't speak English, then the officers is trained to like what language you speak and
Really?
How long ago has this been in place?
It's always been around. Always been around.
Really?
called
Yeah.
language line. So,
Yeah.
For that incident, she wasn't offered one, and I had to come and really intervene. And this was in 2023.
3, yeah.
That is
So,
strange.
Yeah.
maybe it's important
Well,
to actually
there's a-
do outreach. This
yeah,
would be the
that-
starting point of doing outreach specifically about that.
Sure.
If you don't speak English, I mean, you get if this is specifically with Lynnwood
Absolutely.
PD, I mean, we have this language line
Right.
available that you can
Wow.
request
Absolutely.
interpretation.
There's other technology coming too that will, with headphones in,
Yeah.
you could have near real time communication. And it's pretty.
Wow.
It's still
Advanced.
emerging, but it's
Mhm.
it's getting there where it's probably something that we'll have access to
Yeah.
here before too long.
And so
Okay.
we were using the translation app on a
Mhm.
phone, both the Apple one and the Google one, and
Mhm.
it's not perfect. Let's just put it that way. It's
Right.
not perfect, but it helps to kind of bridge that gap. And a lot of time, a situation require you to react pretty quickly and gather information, and that helps a lot. So at least be able to calm the other person down a little bit, so they know what's going on. Because at the end of the day, that's most important, right? During a chaotic situation, how do you let everybody know what they should be expecting, and what are we doing here? And to add to that point some more on educating community, and 100% agree there's a lot more to do, and it's always room for improvement. Something that we do, and Commander Gan and I just recently, and we've been doing it for a while now, and about a month ago, we went to a community college, Emmons School Community College, or they call it Emmons College now.
Mhm.
Their international program, and it's people there to learn English, learn about society. It's exactly to your point, like learn about how they operate here in American society. They're all new immigrants and don't speak much English. And we were asked to go there to talk about police services, in particularly here in Lynnwood. And we were going over exact same step that you were talking about, like what should you be expecting if you get pulled over, or when you need help, how can you call 911, and what you should be listening for, what information you need to provide to our dispatcher, and just how the system works. Because that's a really big difference, right? If you don't understand the why behind things, if you don't understand how it works, and what's the difference between here and your home country, it's really difficult. You know, if you don't understand now, forget about it when there's during crisis moment. You're not gonna remember. So we're trying to make it easy and have this kind of interaction early on, and just have it calm, classroom style, or right here, and
Yes.
share the information so everybody know what to expect.
Yeah.
That's the most frustrating thing, is don't know what to expect.
Right.
Don't know what's gonna happen.
And we'd be happy beyond this venue of this interview to come in and present and to have those conversations. We'd be happy to do that. And again, it's another opportunity for familiar faces, for relationship building, and for people to learn a little bit about the system we work within. Because it's still a system. I mean, we still have a framework that we have to operate in, and processes we have to do by law. And the whole design of those, and they're not perfect, is to be fair and to try and be as impartial and to just use the evidence and then some witness statements to determine what actually happened and if a crime was committed, or if we believe a crime was committed. So it's all about, again, following the systems that are in place to keep the community safe.
Okay. But do you have any follow-up question on what he just said?
No, I mean, that's good.
Okay. I have only one question. So do you need to request it, or the police officer can say, okay, do you need that? Do they propose to you? Because if I don't know that exists, and I have difficulties expressing myself, like the officer will say, okay, let me call like this person, or what language do you speak, or is you like that need to request it?
Yeah, personally, for me, every time I've had an interaction where I even have the slightest thought they might feel comfortable speaking through an interpreter, I always offer it. Even if they are speaking to me perfectly in English, but there's a slight accent, I always offer it. Because sometimes, even for me, because I speak multiple languages too, I think in my head in a different language, and I can't think of the word in English because the some words just don't come out perfectly in English, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you do have a preference, so I always offer it just to make people more comfortable.
Yeah, that's really great to know, because I really didn't know that exists. And I think, like Pa mentioned, a lot of people don't know also like that exists, because Pa was just saying that's a wishful thinking to have that, but having it and using it is like, Wonderful. So thank you for sharing that.
And like Dick said, it's not perfect, but I've had great experience even using French because I know there's different dialects of French.
Mhm.
And I've had to handle a very long DUI all through French. And I took witness statements through the language law interpreter, and I would handwrite it in English as they translated because it's a phone. We do it on a phone call.
Mhm.
And so I'm talking on the phone, they're translating, and I'm writing it down. And it does take a little bit longer, and it's not perfect, but we can get through it. And at least we have something, we have a tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just one thing to note, as I said, we have 16 countries with, over 1,000 languages. What makes our situation hard is the fact that our languages are spoken and not written.
Yes.
You talked about the Google.
Sure.
If you go to any of these translation apps, yes, you go put in Vietnamese, you put in French, you put in Arabic, you put in
Swedish,
Amharic. There
yeah.
are even some African languages like Amharic and others that are written that you will find there, Swahili and others. But you go in and put in Bambara, which is our language.
Right.
You put in mine, Wolof, throw it in there and see. There are AIs that are trying to simulate this. Is not the same. They have lots of errors.
Absolutely.
And these things genuinely, institutions are putting them in place, contracting with companies who are there to cash in that would tell you, yes, we have this interpretation service, this and that. But it is not accurate. And it genuinely leads to a lot of wrong conviction of our community members. It leads to a lot of wrong diagnosis of our community members in the medical fields. And it's good to pay attention to these things.
Absolutely.
Because if you, like I said, make one mistake using a word or something, that means something different. It can make a doctor to prescribe the wrong medication based on the symptom that the person is telling you they're feeling when it's the interpreter who didn't get it. So there are a lot of interpretation errors that are still happening, even for institutions using it. And what, just to say this finally about this language issue, what makes it hard is the people behind those languages, the owners of those language companies, are not from our place, for example. They themselves don't read, speak, or write these languages. When we go anywhere to interpret, if it is in court, the judge only asks us to swear in. We don't get tested. So the owners of those companies don't test the people. If you call Zainab and say, do you speak Hausa? She says yes. You take her word for it when in fact she doesn't.
Yeah.
And in fact, as late as yesterday, I had this experience where I was supposed to interpret a case. The courthouse booked a Mandinka interpreter. And it's not Mandinka. When I got there, it was actually not Mandinka because they just said Mandinka. It was a Bambara person.
Wow.
And this was an immigration case, a young person that they are supposed to be, making a decision about her. They had the difficult choice of, the family had the difficult choice of continuing the hearing because I voluntarily told them, I don't speak Bambara. This person speaks Bambara, I don't speak it. They were so eager for the judgment to happen that day that they were ready to just proceed with me. And I knew I wasn't going to do justice to that case.
Right.
I recommend for it to be moved. They said no, they would rather just deal with it. So they ended up yes trying. This just happened yesterday, seriously. So these are serious things that need to be understood. In as much as we hire language interpretation companies, let's make sure that they are vetted and they actually from those communities, or they know that this exists, versus just getting, anybody that would just say, claim they're interpreting, because what they're saying may equally not be what is said.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bob, for sharing that. The next question is for you.
Yes.
Is that true that some of the data are shared with ICE? A lot of immigrants doesn't trust the police. What do you think about that?
So you're asking if information is shared with
Yeah,
ICE?
so like some of the community think there is data, or there is actually data that are shared with ICE, and because of that, immigrants community doesn't trust the police. And what are you doing to make them trust you and trust what you're doing?
Yeah, this is a good first step. So what I can tell you is in Washington State, as a local law enforcement agency, so we are local law enforcement. We are police officers that operate under the authority of Washington State and ultimately under Lynnwood. So as given by our council and by our mayor. we are not allowed to share information with ICE except in very specific circumstances. And from that, I mean civil immigration. So we're not out to ask people about their immigration status. The only time that we would ever share information is if there was a human trafficking issue, if there was a suspected terrorism and or drug trafficking. There are certain violent crimes, and then there's one other case example that's escaping me right now. It's very narrow, and it would have to really be relevant to the case, and it'd have to be something where we know that the person has an immigration status that is questionable. A person walking down the street, a person who is in an accident, a person who has a DUI, a person who takes something from a store, involved in domestic violence, all those things would not spark or would not initiate a requirement for us to interact or share information with ICE. So they're very similar to the IRS, so the Internal Revenue Service, and they have tax agents that work on tax evasion and tax law at the federal level. Immigration enforcement, they deal with very much civil federal issues. So we don't have the authority to engage, and we're prohibited by law from engaging in that type of work. So it's not work that we're interested in. What I'm interested in is making sure that our community members view us as partners and people that they can call when things go wrong, when there is a crisis in the house, when they are the victim of something. I need them to know that they can call us. And if they don't view us as a partner and they view us as a threat, or they view us as people that are going to make things worse when we show up, that's a loss. And ultimately, it's an impact on them. They are further victimized. So what I need to do is figure out a way that we can continue to build these relationships. And that requires trust. Like for me to say, hey, trust me, and to shoot a video, that's not good enough. So we have to, the proof is in the pudding, right? We have to show that we, by our actions and by the culture that we set in our organization, that immigration enforcement is not our thing. You know, there's laws that say that we can't do it, and we don't do it. I have told our staff and reiterated beyond our policy that is work we're not interested in. And we are about making sure our community is safe and meeting the needs of this community. And so I understand the fears. I can't say that's never shared because, again, there are times by law that it would be appropriate for us to share it, but those are very rare circumstances. There's only 4 circumstances, and it's spelled out in the Keep Washington Working law, which has been on the books since 2015. I believe. So, yeah. So it's just not it. We are so busy with other work that we don't have time. It's just not work we're interested in. It's not allowed by law. We are trying to keep our community safe. So that's just not work that we engage in. So, if that makes sense. Like it's not even, we don't have the authority to engage in the work. So, and we're not sharing information. And if one of my officers was ever sharing information or I was allowing it to happen, I'd be violating the law.
So thank you for sharing that. In one of the questions, you said that there is a challenge because each department have their own system, like between, I don't know, Seattle or like Taquela and here is not gonna be the same way that they operate. So and you also share now that police officers are not allowed to ask those questions that are related to like immigration. Is that only here in Lynnwood or is something general?
That's all of Washington.
Okay, and if like yes, what you said, what are the type of questions? Because English have a lot of nuances, and some officers are just not the. There is good and there is also bad.
Right.
And there are some officers out there that are not just there to help, you know, and they can maybe ask you some of the questions. So what are the maybe example of questions that community members should look out for? And when they hear those and they're like, oh, this is, you're not supposed to be asking me this question. And they can decide to keep, you know, silence and not respond. What are those?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of answered the question right there of, you know, they're not required by law to say anything. So they have the right to remain silent. They have the right to ask for an attorney. Those are, again, rights that are afforded to everybody. So if somebody feels uncomfortable, They don't want to answer questions. I can tell you right now, if there was a matter of a language barrier and we were asking questions about a crime and we thought they were potentially a suspect of a crime, I mean, let alone a victim, we have to be very careful because we have to be the information we gather. If we gather information outside of the framework of the Constitution or the criminal procedures, the laws that have been spelled out, the process that have been spelled out for us, we can lose a whole case. And so we run the risk of actually harming a victim further if we make a mistake, because now the victim doesn't get justice. So kind of back to your point, if we have somebody who English is a second language or it's not their primary language and they are not understanding us, most officers are going to tread very carefully. I mean, they're going to be very careful and they're going to afford the person either an attorney or they're going to get language services on the line so that they can make sure there's clear communication. But people are not required to talk to us. I can tell you that's harmful at times. If people are not talking, there are times where we can clarify things. But if there's a question or they don't feel comfortable talking to the police, they have the right to ask for an attorney.
So the
Or
question
remain
was like like some of the example of like the specific question. Let's say I get pulled over because I was speeding,
Right.
and the guy or the officer is not asking the question about me speeding, but what is the type of question? Because I don't know. You
Right.
know, I might think maybe that's an offensive, like that's okay, it's a normal
Right.
question that all the police officer will ask.
Right.
I'm new, I'm driving. I don't know, maybe this is
Right.
an immigration question or just,
Right.
about why they pulled me over or why
Yeah.
they arrest me for.
So what are typical questions that we should expect officers to ask
Yeah.
if they respond to a
Typical
case?
question. So I mean, to ask about the questions that an officer who's not behaving appropriate. I don't know what those questions are.
But what are
I would ask.
appropriate questions that
Yeah.
an officer should ask?
Okay.
Yeah,
ask?
that's yeah, right.
Mhm.
We'll go with speeding. If it's something like speeding, it could be many things, but did you know you were speeding? Did you know what the speed limit was? Do you have an ID, a driver's license on you?
Mhm.
Do you have car insurance? Do you have a registration?
Mhm.
Those are very standard questions, especially for something like speeding. So that's something that you should look for. It's usually they will ask like, were you aware of this?
Mhm.
If not, maybe how fast do you think you were going?
Mhm.
Those are pretty typical though. Anything outside that scope?
How about things like where are you going, or what were you doing, and things like that? What were you doing
it
in the
depends.
car?
That can actually be a very appropriate question
Yeah.
depending upon the time of night. If you're in an area that has been a subject of a lot of criminal activity,
Mhm.
and so sometimes people come into an area, and we've had it where we've had burglaries in an area in our town, and so now we'll see somebody walking down the street in an area where we've had repeated burglaries, and they maybe are wearing a backpack.
Mhm.
They're wearing a face covering.
Mhm.
There's other indications where our
Suspicious.
folks, our officers say, I'm going to try and talk to this person.
Mhm.
Now there are thresholds or there are levels with which we can talk to the person.
Mhm.
So if they're just getting out of the car and they have no reason to detain the person, there's not enough information,
Mhm.
they could just have a conversation with them. But they could ask, hey, where are you going?
Mhm.
That can be appropriate during a traffic stop of, hey, where are you going? Where are you coming from?
Mhm.
And that could be for when you start talking late at night when we're suspected DUI drivers at night. There's quite a percentage of folks that are
Mhm.
under the influence, and not just of alcohol. We have people that are under medication.
Mhm.
We have people that are marijuana is much more common now, and so while there's sometimes an odor, not always is there if they're taking edibles, and so it's a lot more out there than you think. So they might ask questions.
Things like, are you high? Are you drunk?
They
Are
could
those
ask
good?
that. Well, that would be. They're normally not going to ask that because that's a conclusive statement. It's not really something where.
Are you drunk? It's not.
No, we would not ask that. We would ask if you've had anything to drink, or if you've had any edibles, and then we'd say how long ago, how many drinks did you have.
Uh-huh.
We might ask you to do some tests. You don't have to do the tests; they're voluntary.
Oh, you don't have to do the
No.
test. Okay.
No, they'll tell you.
So
They'll say, "Are you
what
willing to
can
do
what
some
can we
tests?"
refuse?
What
can we refuse?
That's what
Because you
I
talk
was-
about the
yeah,
right to remain
Uh-huh.
silent. A lot of people don't. A lot of people feel obligated to answer every
respond.
question.
Yeah.
Now, what else can you refuse?
Well, good. So a couple things on that traffic stop. An officer can ask for your license, registration, proof, insurance. You're required to provide those by law.
Mhm.
They do have the ability to ask you to get out of the car. They do have as the driver, they have the ability to say, I need you to step out of the vehicle.
And you have to comply.
Absolutely. If an officer starts telling you to do something and they're no longer asking, So if they said, would you be willing to get out of the car? If you say, I don't want to get out of the car, that's different than if they say you need to get out of the car right
Okay.
now.
Okay.
And people need to be very careful, because if you're being given a lawful order and they have the authority to ask you to step out of the car, we can sort that out later on in terms of what's happening here. And you can ask for an answer, you can talk to an attorney to figure out. But for your safety and for the safety of an officer, you would want to step out of the car and comply with their commands if they're telling as opposed to asking. So if they said, would you be willing to do some field sobriety tests or to do some tests to make sure you're okay to drive? You have a choice there. If they tell you to get out of the car, or they tell you that they need to put you in handcuffs, then you need to listen to that. And if there's a miscommunication, it's better to comply with what they're asking and then ask for an attorney, remain silent. Those are rights that are available to you if there's confusion about what you might want to say or not say. But if they are telling you to do something, you must be very careful that you comply with that, because that's where there can be misunderstandings. And I can tell you, as someone with over 30 years, it is very rare that someone will not comply. And it is very scary for me as an officer if I ask them to turn around and they don't turn around. If I tell them I'm going to put them into handcuffs, most people comply and they put handcuffs on. Now, we recognize if there's a language barrier, and we're trained to de-escalate, give people time. But ultimately, the officers are going to ask if they're telling you that they need to put you in handcuffs or they need to step out of the car. We want people to do that. They have the right to ask for a supervisor to the scene. They have a right to complain later on if they feel that it was an unjust action on the part of the staff. But in the moment, it's the safest thing for everybody is for them to comply with commands. That's different than an ask. If they're like, could I see your ID? You could ask, do I need to give it to you? And if they say no, then you don't have to. When you're in the car and you're driving, that if you're the driver of a car, you have to provide your identification, insurance, and registration. Those are law.
So the question, like Paul said, like, are you drunk or like, are you high? If that was me, should I respond or decide to say, okay, I'm not gonna respond to this?
Well, that's your best judgment. If you haven't used anything, you could say, no, I haven't smoked anything, I haven't drank anything.
Because you said that's kind of like him, like the officer, kind of assumption about if you are or not. Like, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not.
Oh, sorry, you gotta change your card.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What time is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I have to leave here in just a minute.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you could just the issue of immigration is
Yeah.
an important issue to actually delve into. You don't share information directly with ICE, but do you share information with other agencies, local agencies who can potentially have a contract or something? Okay.
Yeah.
Then let's just treat that as the last question.
Okay.
This one also.
There is one over here that are charging. It's over there. Yeah. And then there is one in.
Okay, we can rely on that one. That one's not on the battery.
Okay.
Okay.
We're
Right.
still running it.
Okay.
Okay.
Change that.
I just want to understand better the issue of the immigration. Does your department have, you stated that you don't have a contract or you don't share information directly with ICE, but are there instances, or do you share information with other local law enforcement agencies who potentially can share information with ICE?
Yeah, so I guess to clarify, we do not share information for civil immigration purposes. So we still have federal law enforcement partners that it's appropriate for us to share information with them. We have instances of human trafficking that take place in our town. The entity that could help us out with that would be HSI, so Homeland Security, their investigative arm or their investigative group. What we are not doing, and the reason for this is so that we can, again, have open lines of communication, is engaging in civil immigration enforcement. So you just walking down the street, or even if you were engaged in a minor criminal action, your immigration status should never become a part of the conversation.
Okay.
So, and for us to share information with others around here, every police department in Washington State operates under Keep Washington Working. And I would encourage maybe providing a link to your viewers so that they could look at that law and maybe interpret it a little better, or you could probably have an attorney come in and explain the rights under Keep Washington Working. I can't say that we never share information with federal partners, because there are times where we absolutely need to and it's appropriate. And I don't want to vilify all of them, because a lot of them do very important work. What I want to say is that we are not engaging in civil immigration. The main reason is it's against the law, but it's against the law because it interferes with our ability to serve our communities. If people in our community feel unsafe approaching us to report a crime, or to report being the victim of a crime, or to report something else that's unsafe, that is not good for anybody in the community.
So when you book someone into jail, they've committed a crime, they go to jail. When they finish, you don't turn them into ICE.
No, that is not our job. So that is not our job. Now, what we can do sometimes is do a consular notification. Sometimes we're required to do that, and we have policies on that in terms of if somebody is there, because again, language, making sure that their rights are honored and that we're abiding by any treaties that are in place between our countries. We have to at times notify the consulate for the given nation, or the home country. We do not notify ICE or report ICE information back to ICE. Now, what ICE can do is there are sometimes public databases where they can go on and they can find out if somebody is in our custody. And so I'm not saying that ICE couldn't come and identify somebody from the jail and issue a warrant, but that's exceedingly rare, and we don't volunteer the information over to them.
Okay, so last question. I just want to know, and I think everybody that are watching us, the difference between police, sheriff, military, and immigration officer. What are the difference?
Yeah, good question. So we'll start with military. Military in the United States, they are not supposed to be taking any sort of enforcement action. There's a Pars Comitatus law that prohibits them from, except in very rare circumstances, serving as a law enforcement presence. So they're here purely for the defense of the nation and to operate in other areas outside of the nation. Your federal immigration, they are based out of Washington, D.C., so out of our nation's capital, and they operate and they enforce federal laws, so to include immigration. So like a federal immigration law could be a civil law. It could be something where it's not a crime, but they have an ability to detain and to engage in a deportation process with somebody. So they're not necessarily guilty of a crime, or if it's a crime, it's a minor crime. It's a civil violation, and they derive their authority from U.S. Congress. So where we are at the local police, when you start talking about the sheriff is elected, and they are the primary or the preeminent law enforcement entity for the county, for all of the county. And those are the unincorporated areas. So they have authority throughout all of the county, but they really are charged with in providing police services to the unincorporated areas outside of the cities. So getting down to cities, you have like the city of Lynnwood, where we derive our authority from the mayor and council, the kind of charter that is formed for our city. When our city was founded in 1959, it said that we will have a police chief, and that police chief can delegate his authority down to the other members of his department. And all of our officers have a state level certification. They're general peace officers for both your sheriffs and your police officers. So when you interact with them out in the community, they're the same. They're, for intents and purposes, it really comes down to jurisdiction. So for Lynnwood, we just police within the city of Lynnwood, within our limits. The sheriff's office is responsible for everything outside of our city limits. But there are times where we interact and we help each other out just because there's not enough resources.
Okay.
So like very similar work, they patrol and work in different areas. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
For those two.
Okay. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the final question for everyone, I just want us to maybe share a last word of how we can Washington West African Center and the Lynnwood Police Department can work together. What outreach effort we can put in place to educate, because there is so much to talk about.
Yes.
I don't even think so 5 hours will be enough for us to cover all the area. Like what outreach effort we can work together to put in place and educate the community and make sure we are all in the safe environment and community to live in.
I think you just answered the question. It's really about us all coming together. We are hungry. The reason we're here is we're hungry to build a relationship, and the relationship requires trust. It requires coming together, and so we would ask for that to continue in the era of, like, we have staff here that are dedicated just to our community engagement efforts and helping bring us together. So we're here and we're ready to partner where we can, and we want to be a part of building a strong relationship, so that the West African community in this area recognizes us as a value and as a partner and as a community partner. So that's where we need to get to. And I know that it takes work, but I hope this is a good first step in terms of, like, signaling to your community that this is where we want to go. We want to partner.
So what do you think?
Just to thank them for coming to do this. A lot of valuable information. There are a lot of gray areas when it comes to the community and how we perceive things and what we think is wrong and right and what is happening, what shouldn't be happening. So these conversations are the only ones that can actually clear away those myths and misconceptions. So we want to see more of this happening. I mean, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Before we end it,
Okay.
can I have Officer Madonna to talk a little bit about her unique program that she runs?
Yes.
okay.
Why I really love Lynnwood is because we have so many different ways to engage with our community. And we have so many different community events that we've created. We do business outreach now. And that was a huge reason why I even chose Lynnwood, is because I feel really supported here. Anytime anybody has an idea, we listen to it. We try to see how we can make that dream come true. If anybody has a dream or a passion that they really want to bring here. And for me, jiu-jitsu and self-defense was my passion. It always has been. I've been training jiu-jitsu since I was 15 years old, especially because I'm a smaller person and I wanted to learn to defend myself against much larger opponents. And so that's been my passion. That's what brought me into law enforcement. And when I brought this idea to our chief, I felt nothing but support. And I responded to so many domestic violence calls where unfortunately, the victim would say things like, I had no other options. You know, the target was, or the perpetrator was much bigger, heavier, stronger than me, and I didn't know what else to do. And that just broke my heart on patrol responding to calls like that, because me being a smaller person, I've been there and I know that there is so much you can do using leverage timing techniques. So we brought this free program for the community, Women's Self-Defense, and we teach it every other Saturday. And it just gives them some more tools to learn how to defend themselves. And it's so much bigger than just physical techniques. It's more talking about the psychological strategies that are so important to have in the self-defense mindset, all the way from like setting boundaries and verbal de-escalation, verbal assertiveness, to much, much more. So it's such a big program, and it's brought the whole community together. I mean, it's not just for women, anyone can come, but it really focuses on women empowerment and to, have this tool to, the self-defense mindset starts with the belief that you're worth defending. And so it's really brought us all together. And it's just a great way that I can come and connect with everybody outside of my uniform, because I think that's been a big barrier too with any of our community events, is we're still in uniform, and that can still be kind of scary. So it's a really cool way for me to connect and not have that barrier. And then we also have so many other ways. We do business outreach now. We go around door to door and offer our services. We have workplace safety trainings that we can give to, employees. We do building assessments for, trying to make more buildings safe through like environmental design. You want to talk more about our events? We have so many.
And before where does this happen, your training?
Oh, it's actually so close. It's right across the street here by the mall. I think 33rd at Panda Roll Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. And so we, the owner there allows us to use the space for free every other Saturday. And yeah, anyone can come.
What time?
It's every other Saturday, 1 o'clock. 1 to 3.
Yeah, it would be great to have all the information.
You have a flyer or something?
Yes, of course. Yeah, we'd love to have you all come. It's great.
Okay.
Give this to you. There you go.
I think I'll just end it with this, and Officer Madonna basically said everything that I wanted to say, so which is great. I think one key thing that she kind of mentioned is creativity. I think that's what we are always trying to do, is go back to our outreach data and start looking at what are we missing, what are the gaps in terms of what are the populations that we're not reaching out, or what are the populations that starting to come into Lynnwood that we are not currently engaged. So we always go back and look at our stuff and start adjusting our efforts and how can we fill that gap. And most importantly, how to partner with existing organizations like yourself here. Because there's no point of inventing the wheels, because when you guys already have a good following and when you already have the trust of the community, we want to partner with that, and we want to be able to have your help to help us kind of bridge that gap, and in any creative way, because we are always looking for new ways to engage. So there's not really, we don't have to have a meeting, we don't have to have a community forums or anything. It could be a conversation like this. It could be a training self-defense class. It could be a kids music class. I mean, we'll come out. I think those relationships are important. It doesn't have to be start with a serious talk. It could be the relationship first. So I'll just end with that.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
So this is like a great conversation that I don't even want it to end. I'm so happy to have like all of you here sharing all this valuable information. And the last statement for our audiences, I just want to say thank you for all our speakers to being here with us. Building trust take honesty, partnership, and really consistencies. And we look forward to work closely with the Lynnwood PD department to make our community, life, work, everyday businesses safe and happier to live with. Thank you so much.